because the Construction Industries Development Board has launched an investigation into possible links between failed KZN Transport Department projects and the grading of contractors appointed to do the work. The department recently raised concerns that contractors with high grades were missing deadlines. It also emerged that some companies may have bought the higher grade certificates to appear more capable than they truly are. Let's discuss this, and we're joined by the CIDB's CEO, Bongani Dladla. Mr. Dladla, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it. So let's just talk about how you came to understand and see that perhaps this could be happening, where people are buying these higher grade certificates in order to be picked for particular projects within the province and yet still not delivering. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, we first learned of this through a publication that was ran where MEC Duma had highlighted that 30 projects have been considered to have failed, and they suspect that the contractors are responsible for that. And we reached out to the department to furnish us with the names of those contractors, the procurement process that was followed to appoint those contractors, and also the performance really of the client, so we can investigate. And this is the ongoing work that we've started, where in July last year, we deregistered 40 companies for similar actions where people are suspected to have bought the grades or are not performing in the construction projects that have been awarded. And we take this very seriously as a CIDB because it really goes to the core of the function of the CIDB to ensure there are credible contractors that are there for the market to use.
How exactly does one get the higher graded certificates, especially the ones that are used in a lot of these conversations? How does one actually get those? Is there a particular way in which they are attained? Legally, of course, is the way I'm talking about, other than the purchasing.
Yeah. Essentially, what you need to prove for us to consider you a competent contractor is that you have a track record of doing similar projects, albeit at a smaller scale with similar complexity, and you have the financial capabilities to finance the project, because construction is a very cash-intensive business. Yeah. And then also you've conducted yourself appropriately in your actions as a contractor. So when we look at those three items of looking at the financial capabilities, the conduct of the persons, and also the third one of a similar project, you should be able to be graded. Most of our contractors start at grade 1, where the barriers of entry are very limited, but you are only exposed to doing work of up to 500,000. But these contractors that we are talking about today, those are contractors that should be having a turnover of estimated 200 million rands, having done projects above 60 million rand, for them to be competent for the types of projects that they've been awarded at KZN DOT.
Yeah. How do we determine competence as well? And I know I'm basically starting at the base here to try and just understand where we're at. How do you determine competence? Is it incomplete work, running over time, over budget ultimately as well, shoddy or poor work?
The first aspect is that you must have completed a project with a completion certificate that is of a similar nature in the various types. There is electrical, mechanical, civil engineering, general buildings. So that's the first tool that we use in our macro risk mitigation. And then obviously you follow that with how you've managed the monies in the project, because it's quite an important aspect on the construction business to ensure that you have sufficient cash flows to deliver on those projects. But following the summit that the president addressed on the 13th and 14th, now we are introducing new performance reports for both clients, contractors and consultants, so that we can, in future registration processes, we can also utilize that. Because currently the shortfall with our system is that people will give us the projects to prove their competencies where they've performed well, not those ones that are incomplete. So we need to have a full view of how a contractor, a client, a consultant have conducted themselves over a period of time for us to be able to grade them appropriately.
How much do you think could have possibly been lost to what would ultimately be fraud in this case, where people are now buying these higher grade certificates in order to get the work that they aren't competent for?
The economic cost is quite severe if you consider a failed project where you have to appoint another contractor and then they have to start afresh, be paid preliminary and general costs, which can be anything up to 20% of the project value, and the escalation of prices over time. We've seen projects that were supposed to be 50 million, they end up being 110 million. But there's another element to this where also the actions of clients needs to be scrutinized. Are they paying on time? Because without those cash flows, projects are deemed to fail. Do they make decisions on time? That's why we are taking a 360 view of this, and we are working with incredible partners, including the Auditor General, to look at these kinds of project failures.
You're an oversight body, if I'm correct. This is happening in many ways under your watch as well and under the regulations that have been set forward. Does this not say that perhaps there's a few cracks in your own oversight over situations like this?
Where there has been cases where fraud has been reported to us, we've dealt decisively. We did terminating employees, opening criminal cases. In other cases, people would resign before a disciplinary action. So our board took a zero tolerance approach, and we are following on that. Even in these cases where we find our own internal staff members could have been involved in the selling of crates, because we keep a record who received the file, who assessed the file, who deemed that contractor competent. So even looking at that, it should be easy to prosecute those types of cases.
Yeah. So how long do you think this investigation is set to take? I mean, one thing is for sure is you want to try and get the investigation done and sorted, ensure that those that are unlawfully getting these contracts are no longer getting these contracts, so that the work can finally be done and ordinary citizens can get that infrastructure that they actually need and construction work begins. So how long does this take?
If a client completely collaborates, shares information with us so we can make the right assessments, it shouldn't take more than 3 months to be able to conclude the investigation, including an internal investigation, for us to come to a conclusion whether we will deregister that contractor or not. But other steps, including the criminal cases, those generally take longer, hence our partnership with the SAPS and NPA in terms of how to prosecute these cases, especially where there has been monies lost to the state.
Yeah. Is it time to make it a little bit more public when it comes to the transparency in procurement, public